Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episode 14, which is the finale episode. And let me start off by saying, thank you, God. Won't He do it?
Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
Because the way this season was a complete and total flop. First of all, I have a bone to pick with production because all season long, you guys have been teasing us with Dana telling Jen that she would no longer put money on her books. That was the big thing about the finale. We were going to see that moment. We were going to see that argument. And we get to this episode and you guys completely cut that part out. And why? SLC didn't give us anything all season long. Could you at least let us have that moment? But guys, with all that being said, let's just jump right on into it because you guys already know that we don't have a minute to spare. So we start the finale off at Heather's book party. So she's excited because all of her friends and family are going to come out and support her. We see Angie K and her husband arrive. Lisa and John Barlow are there. Of course, Lisa brings up Heather's eye. She's like, Heather, you know, I don't even notice your black eye anymore. It looks a lot better. And of course, you have Heather deflecting and trying to make a joke out of her eye. And she says that she wants the whole thing to be forgotten. And I'm thinking, Heather, can you stop? We don't care anymore. And I was with Lisa when Lisa said, if Heather wants this all to go away, just tell us what happened and tell us who did it. It seems like Heather wants the attention. And I said, Lisa, you are absolutely correct. I've said this in several recaps. Heather does like the attention. She loves all the fanfare of people whispering and gossiping and speculating about what happened to her eye. And I clocked Heather a long time ago. Heather enjoys playing the victim. And Heather, if you don't plan on opening your mouth and revealing what happened at this reunion, then just save it. Because what you won't do is waste our time for another 5 or 10 minutes beating around the bush and not saying anything. Now, we see Whitney arrive, and Heather says that while she's glad to see Whitney come out and support her, she's also sad because their relationship is still strained and it's not the same anymore. Now, after the conversation that Whitney and Heather had in the last episode, I was surprised to see Whitney there because the way things left off, Heather pretty much told her, well, F you, I'm tired, I'm done, we don't need to be friends anymore. But then again, I said, they are filming a show, this is the finale episode, and with Justin being unemployed, Whitney and them need every single dime, so no way was she gonna miss this scene. Now, I have a quick question, because when Heather's cousins showed up, and Heather was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you guys are here to support me. I wonder what my mom is going to say about this. I'm sure she's going to freak out. If I recall, last season, we met 2 of Heather's siblings. We met one of her sisters and one of her brothers, and they're no longer Mormon either. So why does Heather act like she's the only one in her family who's no longer Mormon? So I'm sure that her mom is not going to freak out so heavily about this bad Mormon party. And also, I feel like Heather is just so hell-bent on having her family feel a type of way about her. And it's like, sis, you've been on this show now for 3 years. I'm sure that they're used to it by now. Am I the only one who thought about that? Because I was just thinking, why is Heather acting like she's the only ex-Mormon in her family when several other family members have left the Mormon church too? So while the party's going on, we see Angie K talking to Whitney and Lisa, and of course, she's talking about Jen Shah. So she says that her eyes have opened about Jen, and she plans on speaking to Jen later on in the night. And I said, well, we know that, Angie, because we know that you are starved for some camera time and to get a moment. So anyhow, Angie's newest gripe with Jen is that allegedly Jen had pulled one of her friends aside and told them that Angie K was the one who punched Heather when they were in San Diego. So Angie's pissed at that, and she's like, Jen is the one who's aggressive and violent, and that once she feels slighted by you, she's out to get you forever.
There we go. Thank you. And you're gonna always get it again and again and again.
So now you have Angie K giving her theory about what really went down. She says that Jen and Heather were in the bedroom doing Barbie scissor kicks. Now, Lisa had me screaming. She was like, wait, what? What do you mean? What's a Barbie scissor kick? And honestly, I don't like this visual because who was on top? I don't even know how that would work. I think that both of the Angies on SLC are desperate and thirsty, but I said, Angie K, you really made yourself look even more foolish because you know good and damn well that Jen and Heather were not having sex. You really pulled that out of your ass. It's like, really? That wasn't even believable. And even you knew that you were just saying that just to say it. And Whitney and Lisa weren't even entertaining you. They were like, okay, girl. Now, this next part had me screaming because when Jen and Coach Shah walked into that event and they immediately walked right up to the Harringtons, Chris Harrington was shook. Coach Shah starts it off and says, in order for me to forgive you guys and have any form of reconciliation, I'm going to need an explanation of why you set up a fake page trolling me and my family and an apology. Baby, Chris Harrington could barely get the words out. You have Angie Harrington patting her husband on the back, and then she takes over and she says, we're really sorry, it wasn't personal, but we understand why it would feel personal to you guys. And I was thinking, what kind of explanation is that? Also, Chris Harrington, you're a grown man. At your big age, making up a troll account, like you're not embarrassed? So Coach Shah says, look, it's cool, we're good. And then he gives them both a hug. And Angie Harrington, I saw you on the after show and you sounded crazy trying to defend your husband for what he did. You're talking about, look, Chris didn't mean any harm. It's just that he grew up rough. He's from the streets. I said the streets of where?
You know what? It's too much.
And if your husband is from the streets like you claim, then how come he couldn't talk to Coach Shah man to man? Why was he up there stuttering, turning beet red, and about to cry? I said, y'all both need help. Listen, if there is a season 4, we do not need to see Angie Harrington. I'm good. Mama's a bit off. Her husband's a weirdo. We don't need to see them. Now, when it was time for the choir to start singing, they all sounded a hot mess. I said, Heather, you and your choir need some practice because you guys were not hitting those notes. Amazing Grace sounded really flat. You guys are better off having Lisa Barlow sing Away in a Manger. Okay, I would have gladly preferred that. Away in a manger, no crib for his head, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. Miss Lisa Barlow has some vocals, okay?
I am a musician. I don't sample, you know. It's not Memorex. I go on stage and my microphone is on.
And also, that choir looked a lot fuller than what we saw in those auditions because only 6 people tried out and that choir had about 15 people. I said they must have hired some extras off of Craigslist. But Heather, if there is a season 4, please do not try to bring this whole choir storyline back up because this was a flop and extremely boring. But anyhow, now it's time for Heather's speech. She's thanking all of them for coming, and she says that while she might be a bad Mormon, she still wants to be a good friend, and she wants to be a ride or die for everybody. Now, I'm going to need Heather to retire the phrase. I swear it feels like Heather just learned that phrase because she says ride or die every minute in every episode. Like, girl, we get it. And also, Heather, you look phony saying that you want to be everybody's ride or die. Like, I don't know what Heather's obsession is with trying to be everybody's best friend, but she needs to grow up and grow out of it. But Heather unveils her book cover, and I'll give her her props. The book cover looks nice. I'm curious to find out, is Heather gonna really spill some tea in this book, or is it gonna be full of fluff? I just feel like the way Heather teased us about this black eye all season long, and that was a complete flop. She told us nothing. Are you really going to reveal all these secrets? I don't know. When it comes to Heather, I just always have a side eye because just the way she conducts herself, this could all be a whole lot of fluff and a quick money grab. If any of you guys do buy a copy and read it, let me know. Now, we close out Heather's book party with a conversation between Jen and Whitney. Whitney wants to know from Jen, where did things go wrong in their friendship? Because before the San Diego trip, they were cool, they were on good terms, and then when they got on the trip, Whitney feels like Jen and Heather, along with the other ladies, ganged up on her. So Jen is confused. Of course, that's not how she sees it. She's like, no, I always thought that we were good. Like, I don't have an issue with you. And Whitney says, but again, Jen, in San Diego, it just felt like things were off between us. Now, as they're talking, we see Angie K and Dana watching from afar, and Angie K is determined to have her moment and get her camera time. So she's like, come on, girl, let's walk over there and get in this conversation. So this private conversation between Jen and Whitney now turns into a low-key ambush. And of course, Angie K is thirsty. So she's like, well, wrap it up, Jen, because I need to talk to you as well. I hear that you're going around lying on me, saying that I was the one who punched Heather in the eye. Jen denies it. She says, I never said anything about that. I never told anybody that you punched Heather in the eye. I don't know where you're getting this from. Now, the way Jen was coming up with stories to cover for Heather about the eye when they were in San Diego, I wouldn't be surprised if Jen was running around saying that Angie K punched her in the eye. I don't know. I think that with Jen, we never get the truth from her, so it doesn't sound too far-fetched to believe that she was running around spreading rumors about Angie K or somebody else punching Heather out. Just my opinion. I was really surprised to see that Angie K had Jen rattled to the point where Jen called on Coach Shah for backup. So Coach Shah walks over, and now you have Angie K addressing Coach. She's like, was any of this real? Because you claim that Angie Harrington and this fake page made you want to take your own life, and then I see you making up with her. You guys are hugging it out. Like, I'm confused. Was any of this real? So Jen is like, are you serious right now? The fact that you want to question my mental health is disgusting. So she walks off, of course, in true Jen fashion. She's screaming and yelling and cursing. She's like, security, cameras, get away from me. So now you have Coach angry, and he says to Angie K, are you serious right now? She did try to take her own life. My wife was really hurt by what happened. Now it's clear that production cut a lot of this argument out because obviously, like I mentioned earlier on in this recap, we didn't see the argument between Dana and Jen Shah. But it just felt like this whole argument between Angie K and Jen and Coach Shah, it just went from 0 to 100 like that. I saw on the after show, Angie K was saying that the reason why she was so confused because you have Jen hollering about her mental health and how the Harringtons have hurt her, but meanwhile, Jen was allegedly asking the Harringtons for money, asking to borrow their cars, and I was like, well, damn. Now, we do know that Jen has a history of borrowing things because in seasons 1 and 2, that Porsche that she was driving around, that was a neighbor's Porsche. Now, while I do think that Angie K is a bit too invested in what Jen and the Harringtons have going on, I will say that I get where she's coming from. You claim that these people had you wanting to take yourself out, but yet you're asking them for favors and borrowing money from them and using their cars. Like, what's going on? And at this point, we all know how Jen operates. When Jen is in the wrong, she'll always deflect and pull out a sob story, such as wanting to end things to gain sympathy and not take ownership. That's how Jen is. But the Shahs have left the building, and now we have Heather come over. She wants to find out what just went down, and she addresses Angie K. She's like, Angie, what's your objective here? What's your motive? Do you want to make peace with Jen or not? And Angie K says that she's done with Jen. She has no desire to make peace with her or be friends again. So the party's over, and now we jump ahead 3 months later, and Jen and Coach Shah are preparing to head to New York for the trial. They are 4 days out, and we see Jen talking to her mom. Her mom's trying to comfort her. She's like, your ancestors are always with you. Just call on them when you walk inside of that courtroom. So Jen is emotional, and she says that it's really surreal because when she gets back to Utah, she'll know if she's innocent or guilty. And then you have her mom saying, but we all know that you're innocent. And Jen just sits there. Now, let me just say this. I think that it is shameful that Jen allowed her mother to wipe out her retirement account, and she knew all along that she was guilty. It's just so sad because this did not have to happen. I don't know what possessed Jen to scam people out of millions of dollars. And again, Jen, what were you thinking? But we now cut to Jen and Coach Shah in New York. They're getting settled in their room, and we see Meredith and Heather in New York as well, and they are there to offer Jen and Coach Shah moral support. I said, while that's nice of them to offer up support, that's also a clever way to get some more camera time. But I said, okay, let me not be shady. But they're talking about Jen and how they feel sorry for her and Coach Shah. Heather says that the other day she went over to Jen's house, and Jen asked if Heather would check on her family if she should be sent to jail. And Heather said, of course. I just find it so crazy that the same woman that Jen has screamed at, cursed at, threatened, she's made jokes about Heather's appearance. She's now the same woman asking Heather if Heather will check on her family when she's sent away to prison. It's just so funny to me. The same woman that you dogged out, and now you need her help and her support and her love. Like, very interesting. But now Heather and Meredith finish talking, and they head upstairs to see Jen and Coach Shah in their hotel room, and Jen is just so happy to see them. But Jen continues on by saying that she's just so happy to see Meredith and Heather because so many other friends told her that they would be there for her, and they're nowhere to be found. Now, Jen, as more details came out, can you really be surprised that people deserted you? Also, you haven't been the best friend to a lot of people. So again, you having a nasty attitude, a very volatile temper, you really can't be that surprised that people aren't there for you right now. And I also believe that a lot of people who were friends with her probably felt like she's guilty. I think that the vast majority of these women also believed that Jen was guilty, but they were just too polite to say it in the beginning. When Heather was asking Coach Shah how the boys are doing, And Coach said that, yeah, we've had some really painful conversations about what can happen. And when they played the footage of them talking to their 16-year-old son, that was very heartbreaking to watch. And again, the saddest thing about this was this did not need to happen. Coach Shah made a great living. The public records showed that he made over $700,000 a year. There was no reason for her to scam. And I have to ask again, what was going through Jen's mind when she decided to do this? I feel really sorry for her sons. They don't deserve this. Now, when we skip to the lunch with Seth, Meredith, and Heather, Seth wanted all the tea, okay? He was asking question after question after question. He couldn't stop. So he's asking Meredith and Heather if they ever asked Jen if she was guilty on any of these charges. Heather says that when your friend looks you in the eye and tells you that she's innocent, you just believe her. I said one thing about it, Heather is going to always have some pre-packaged answer at the ready. I was like, okay, girl. Like I said, I don't believe for 1 minute that these women actually believe that Jen was innocent. I think that Heather deep down always felt like Jen was guilty. And we'll talk more about that in the last scene that she had with Lisa, because her true colors and her real feelings came out. But I loved how the inner lawyer jumped out in Meredith, because she said, look, babe, nobody is denying that this scheme happened. They are trying to find out what was Jen's involvement in the scheme. So now Seth wants to know, will Meredith or Heather still be ride or die if Jen is found out to be guilty? So Meredith says, look, if it is found out that Jen is guilty while she was proclaiming her innocence, that's going to be a huge problem for me. But Meredith makes it clear that she's not trying to find out any information right now. She says it's still an open case, it's still pending, and if she tells me any information, then that means that the feds are going to be knocking on my door, and that's the last thing that I need. But she makes it clear that when it's all said and done, when it's all over, then she wants to sit down with Jen and get the real tea. And I said, I know that's right. She said, the feds won't get me. Now, here's where I was completely done. It's Jen, Heather, Meredith in Jen's hotel room. They're unwinding. They got some snacks, and they're just sitting around the table talking. So Jen had a very hard day in court, and she says that the hardest thing about this whole thing is finding out that somebody that she trusted turned on her. And we all know who she's talking about. She's talking about her near and dear ex-assistant, Stewart. So she goes on to say how much she's done for Stewart. She made sure that there was food on his family's table, how she made sure that he was able to put his kids through school. And I was like, Jen, please stop. And then she has the audacity to say that Stewart played her. Now, Heather, I was right there with you when you said, I just find this whole thing hard to believe, because Stewart, your assistant, the same man who was getting your coffee, getting your lunch, scheduling your wax appointments, buying you tampons, he's the same man who's this mastermind behind this whole scheme that you had no idea of. Like, Jen, stop. Nobody believes you. You made it very clear that you were the boss, you were the eyes and the ears, you caught everything, and that everybody reported and answered to you. So I don't believe that Stewart was doing all this and you had no idea. And if I'm being fully transparent, I had secondhand embarrassment watching Jen blame Stewart, because also, sis, we saw your statements and you admit to the court that you knew what you were doing. So for you to put all the blame on Stewart and say that he was the mastermind behind this whole thing and he's setting me up and he played me, it's like, take accountability. You wouldn't be in this boat had you not decided to scam people. And what was all this scamming for? Because like we all found out, all of your stuff is fake. Did anybody else yell when Jen had the audacity to say that this is why it's hard for her to trust people? I was like, girl, are you kidding me? You scammed millions of dollars from the elderly and you want to talk about trusting somebody? Are we really doing this right now? Meredith trying to console her, saying that, well, we all know how karma works. And I said, Meredith, please. Your friend is guilty and she's getting her karma. And now we cut to Jen's final confessional, and she says, there is so much I wish I could say to the public. And the producer wants to know if Jen is ready to tell the real story. And now we cut to Jen leaving the courtroom. She has pled guilty and she has been sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. Again, a very sad situation. My heart goes out to the victims. Jen, you are paying the consequences of what you did. There was no reason for you to steal from anybody, for you to be so brazen and so bold and get on national TV bragging about this lavish lifestyle, knowing that you had scammed thousands of people. You should feel ashamed. And your family is going to be affected by this for a very long time. But we close out the episode with Lisa and Heather meeting up for lunch. Correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't Heather and Lisa on the outs throughout this season? So I was surprised to see them meeting up for lunch. I was like, oh, okay, so now they're cool. But anyhow, they're meeting up for lunch and they're talking about Jen pleading guilty. Lisa is visibly shaken up. She says that she is running the gamut of emotions. She's angry, she's sad, she's confused, and she keeps asking herself, is this the person that Jen truly is? So Heather says that she's overwhelmed with grief, the fact that there are victims involved, and on top of that, their good friend is now going away to prison for a number of years. So Lisa wants to know from Heather, how did Heather feel when she read what Jen said? And we all saw that Jen said to the judge that she knew what she was doing was wrong. She was aware that she was misleading people. And Heather says that she was shocked. So Heather continues on by saying that Jen thought that she could outsmart everybody and she thought that she could get away with it. Then when she realized that she couldn't, she finally had to come clean. Now Heather adds that she believes Coach Shah discovered what she was doing, and he also realized that it was just way too much for them to lie about. Now I said, Heather, why are you throwing Coach Shah's name in the mix? Also, for somebody who's been so ride or die, I just love my friend, I'm gonna ride with Jen and Coach Shah till the end. To hear you say all these theories about, well, I think Coach Shah knew, and then when he found out, he was like, okay, well, you know, it's just way too much, so just come clean. I said exactly what I said, that Heather, along with the rest of these women, always knew that Jen was guilty. And they were being polite. They didn't want to seem like they were racist by saying that they thought that she was guilty. I thought that what Heather was saying during this scene was telling, because Heather let it all come out about how she truly felt. This did not sound like a friend who really believed that their friend was innocent. And Heather was really smug when she said, I believe that Jen did it, and right now she's choking on her words. And it just felt like Heather looked satisfied about this whole thing. But we end the finale episode with Lisa crying again, and then Heather says, yeah, it's a lot. But y'all, that was the finale episode. And I have to admit, I was a bit surprised that we didn't see the confessionals from all the women about Jen pleading guilty. I was curious to see what they all had to say, but we only saw the conversation between Lisa and Heather. I'm sure we're going to hear more about how they feel at the reunion. I did see them all say in the after show that it's sad. I heard Whitney say that she won't be surprised if her and Jen never speak again. Lisa said that she's confused as to why Jen is still cyberbullying her and other people on the cast when she's dealing with going to prison. A hot mess. But all in all, the finale episode was all right. Definitely the best episode by far. And I think that if SLC does want to see a season 4, they need to go back to the drawing board, get some actual storylines that are interesting and bring Mary Cosby back and maybe bring Dana on as a full-time. We don't need to see Angie Harrington anymore. That ship has sailed. Maybe bring back Angie K as a friend of and see where it all goes. But you guys need a serious revamp because this season was a flop. Now, I see that the reunion is going to be the week after next, January 25th. I'm praying that Bravo has heard our cries and it's only going to be a one-part reunion because this season gave us nothing. They do not need a 2 or 3-parter. It needs to be a cute one part and call it a day. But y'all, those were my thoughts. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you all so much for watching. And you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.